In the realm of true crime, there are cases that cast ominous shadows over our collective consciousness. These are the mysterious, disturbing crimes where the identities of perpetrators are hidden, concealed, even through the relentless passage of time. These are the cases where the perpetrator remains unknown and justice remains unserved. Welcome to Perpetrator Unknown, the podcast that dives deep into the abyss of these bone-chilling narratives and unsolved crimes. We are here to illuminate the darkness, to unearth answers to the mysteries that have confounded investigators, fractured families, and left communities haunted for years.
I'm your host, L.A. Join me as we journey into the heart of these mysteries. Together, we'll review the facts of the case, piece together evidence, analyze the crimes, and explore the lives forever altered by the events we'll uncover. In this inaugural series, we delve into a year that started with promise, but descended into darkness. Beneath South Florida's sunny exterior and facade of tranquility, a sinister underbelly emerged, spawning a sequence of events that continue to elude comprehension. In Season 1, we're delving into a collection of odious crimes that remain unsolved to this day. While no one can definitively state that these events are connected, eerie similarities emerge, notably that each one originated in 2007 at the upscale Town Center Mall in Boca Raton, Florida. If you missed episode 1, I highly recommend starting there. In that installment, we dove into the first of the Town Center Mall murders, beginning with part 1 of Randi Gorenberg's narrative. In today's episode, we'll continue this expedition and uncover the harrowing ordeal of a mother and her young child trapped in an unimaginably terrifying situation. As we immerse ourselves in the intricate tapestry of details, let's remember that behind every open case lies a victim and a family waiting for justice.
So fasten your seatbelts as we set forth on a voyage into the shadows. This is Perpetrator Unknown.
Nearly 9 months after the shocking murder of Randi Gorenberg, tragic events unfolded again in the same South Florida community. On Wednesday, December 12, 2007, the bodies of a mother and her young daughter were discovered in their idling vehicle, located in the parking lot of the Town Center Mall, the same mall where Randi was last seen alive. As a reminder, Boca Raton stands as an opulent and picturesque community nestled along Florida's eastern coastline, situated between the vibrant hubs of Palm Beach and Miami. Perhaps it was this very allure that prompted Nancy Bochicchio, a stock analyst, and her then partner Philip Hauser to relocate from Long Island to Boca Raton in the 1990s. Originally from the Bronx, Nancy belonged to a large, loving, and tight-knit Italian-American family, and her closeness with family members led them to make the move south alongside her. Despite the 12-year age gap between Nancy and her older sister Joanne, the two shared an extremely strong connection with one another. In a lighthearted and humorous manner, Joanne once remarked that when someone dated her, they were also dating Nancy. Joanne's husband, Stanley Bruno, had known Nancy since she was just 2 years old. She was only 7 when the couple married. Stan and Nancy enjoyed outings to football and baseball games, engaging in playful banter where he affectionately dubbed her Froggy due to her raspy voice. In Stanley's eyes, Nancy was not just an in-law, but also akin to a little sister. In 1999, Nancy became pregnant, despite having been told by doctors in the past that she would probably never be able to conceive a child. The unexpected news at almost 40 years old was beyond thrilling, but the pregnancy was not without problems. About 4 months along, Nancy was told by her doctors that there was an issue with the baby's spinal cord. In the face of this medical complexity, physicians advised her to terminate the pregnancy. However, being a staunch and faithful Catholic, Nancy refused medical advice, telling the doctors, "This angel needs me more than any other child." On December 17, 1999, Nancy triumphantly gave birth to a healthy, beautiful 9-pound, 4-ounce baby girl and christened her Joey as a tribute to her own father. Baby Joey's arrival seemed nothing less than a miracle. Joanne, Nancy's sister, shared that Joey was their Christmas angel, a sentiment made even more poignant by the fact that Nancy's due date had coincided with the holiday. As a reflection of the family's faith, they bestowed upon Joey the middle name Noel. Time marched forward, and sadly, Nancy and Philip's union took a somber turn, succumbing to the fate shared by many marriages. Their once promising partnership unraveled. By the autumn of 2006, Nancy sought a formal end to her marriage, filing for and subsequently being granted a dissolution of marriage. During this legal process, the court made the consequential and unusual decision to terminate Philip's parental rights as well. Legal records indicate that Nancy's allegations revolved around Philip's battle with alcoholism, his abandonment of the family, and his departure from the state in September 2003, leaving Nancy and Joey to navigate life in Florida on their own. About a year had passed since the finalization of her divorce when December of 2007 arrived, casting Nancy Bochicchio as a single mother, a role she embraced with unwavering dedication. Devoted and nurturing, Nancy's primary focus was her now 7-year-old daughter, Joey, a responsibility she took to heart. Nancy's commitment to Joey was evident in her lifestyle choices. Despite the passage of time, she had chosen not to pursue romantic relationships, deeming it imprudent to introduce men into Joey's life. Their bond was truly special, with the mother-daughter pair sharing an incredibly close relationship. In Nancy's world, Joey was the shining nucleus around which all else revolved. Her life encompassed various facets, including family, professional pursuits, and active involvement in the church community. Deeply engaged in child advocacy efforts and frequent charitable endeavors, Nancy was not only compassionate, but also resilient. The tapestry of her personality was woven with a blend of strength and tenderness, often described as having a tough exterior, complemented by a compassionate heart and an indomitable spirit. An illustrative anecdote from Nancy's time in New York showcases that tough side and the ability to stand up for herself. One summer day, while driving through Brooklyn with her father, a would-be thief attempted to snatch her Gucci handbag. Amidst the struggle, she firmly declared that he wasn't taking her bag. She had worked hard for it. Then, in a quick and unexpected response, Nancy bit down on the assailant's hand. Startled, he told her she was crazy. As the traffic light changed, Nancy and her father drove away, leaving the thwarted thief behind. Joey possessed an effervescent personality that shone brightly, radiating a charm that naturally drew people in. Beyond her tender age of 7, she displayed remarkable qualities of intelligence, politeness, and a maturity that belied her years. Enrolled at St. Jude's Catholic School, Joey was a young girl of many talents and interests. Ballet and golf lessons were sources of joy and self-expression for her, and she had even taken up cheerleading, channeling her boundless energy into the spirited activity. Principal Debbie Armstrong of St. Jude's School fondly recalled Joey's New York flair, a testament to her family roots. She recounted a memorable incident when Joey arrived at school, wearing a do-rag atop her head along with her uniform, a moment that needed a gentle reminder about appropriate attire from the principal herself. However, what may have truly set Joey apart was her refined taste. Her preferences transcended typical childhood fare. She favored clams, mussels, and oysters over the usual burger and fries. Her culinary inclinations seemed to align more with those of a connoisseur. Of Joey, her Aunt Joanne said, she would go to Meisner Park and walk in the restaurant, and as soon as they saw her, they would say a dozen oysters. I mean, everybody knew her everywhere. They used to call her the little Boca Mayor. She had a personality like gold. During her annual checkup in the latter part of 2007, Joey's pediatrician detected a potential heart murmur, a matter of concern that warranted a specialist's attention. While the pediatrician suggested that Nancy could postpone the visit until after the holiday season, Nancy's unwavering devotion to Joey made her decide otherwise. Demonstrating her characteristic promptness, Nancy scheduled Joey's cardiology appointment for Wednesday, December 12th. The week of the cardiology appointment proved to be a whirlwind for Nancy and Joey as Christmas loomed closer on the horizon. With just a couple of weeks left until the festivities, their schedule was brimming with preparations. That Thursday, Joey was poised to take on the role of a reindeer in the school's Christmas pageant, a role that undoubtedly filled her with excitement. Yet, more excitement was in store, as Joey's 8th birthday was merely days away. Nancy had already meticulously mapped out an extravagant celebration to take place that Saturday at one of their cherished dining spots, the elegant Café D'Angelo. Around 20 of Joey's schoolmates, accompanied by their parents, were expected to attend the event. The gathering would be complete with a DJ spinning tunes and a special appearance by Santa Claus, played by a friend of Nancy's who would deliver Joey's birthday gifts. Nancy had thoughtfully made a call to this friend early in the week as a gentle reminder about the upcoming festivity. On that fateful day of December 12th, 2007, Nancy picked Joey up from school early to take her to the cardiologist. Afterward, the sun hung high in the sky when Nancy made a phone call to her sister with joyful news. Joey's heart was in perfect health, and the doctor had predicted she would live to the ripe age of 100. Buoyed by this heartening revelation, Nancy shared her evening plans with her sister. She and Joey were set to dine with another family from St. Jude's. Joey and a classmate would spend the evening practicing their lines for the school's Christmas pageant, which was scheduled to be held the next day. But first, Nancy and Joey needed to run an errand, which required a quick trip to the town center mall. Conveniently located just across the street from the doctor's office, the mall held a gift card solution that wouldn't take much of their time. Following that phone call to Joanne, Nancy and Joey did make their way to the mall as planned. Surveillance footage from that day, timestamped at 2:19 p.m., captured the mother and daughter duo entering town center through the doors nestled between Neiman Marcus and what was the Sears department store, the same mall entrance that Randi Gorenberg had used on that ill-fated day 9 months earlier. Their presence was duly recorded when less than an hour later, at around 3:11 p.m., the security cameras once again spotted Nancy and Joey departing the mall through the same doors. A still image extracted from the surveillance footage poignantly portrays them leaving the premises hand in hand. Those images show Nancy dressed in a red top coupled with dark pants, her left forearm carrying 2 festive shopping bags. Joey was sporting a light pink short-sleeved top adorned with puffy sleeves, complemented by bright pink capri leggings. The photos encapsulate the innocence of a child and a moment of pure happiness, with mother and daughter clearly engrossed in one another's company. Joey's head is gently turned toward her mom, and Nancy's face showcases a smile, perhaps even a shared laugh with her daughter. But as they continued their stroll, disappearing from the camera's gaze, the course of events that followed remains veiled in uncertainty, even after the passage of 16 years. Sometime after 11 p.m., about 8 hours after Nancy and Joey were seen on that video surveillance, a mall security guard noticed a late model black Chrysler Aspen SUV parked but with its engine still humming in the merchandise pickup bay of the Sears department store. In addition to the running engine, the vehicle's lights were on. As the guard peered through the window of the vehicle, he could see the outlines of two people who appeared to be sleeping, yet he could not rouse them. Perceiving this situation as decidedly out of the ordinary, the security guard dialed a non-emergency number for the Boca Raton police, urging them to dispatch officers to investigate the matter. Many have questioned the guard's decision not to dial 911. His discovery was indeed extraordinary. The mall was deserted, its shops and halls devoid of shoppers, and workers long gone. Despite the late hour and the eerie stillness, law enforcement responded to the non-emergency call, arriving just before midnight. What they found within the idling vehicle was beyond heart-wrenching, a horrifying scene that would be etched in their minds for eternity. The scene that confronted investigators outside of the upscale mall stood in stark contrast to its usual ambiance. It was nothing short of nightmarish and profoundly unsettling, stretching the limits of even the most fertile imagination. A woman and a child, later identified as 47-year-old Nancy Bochicchio and her 7-year-old daughter, Joey Bochicchio Hauser, were found lifeless and still, their lives tragically extinguished. Both mother and daughter were subjected to cruel restraints, their innocence betrayed by fatal gunshots to their heads. The assailant or assailants had employed a chilling array of tools and techniques to subdue the victims, creating a tableau of unspeakable horror. Various restraints were utilized, including duct tape, handcuffs, plastic zip ties, and goggles with darkened lenses. The violence inflicted upon Nancy and Joey was nothing short of evil. Both mother and daughter were methodically and brutally bound, positioned side by side in the back seat of their own vehicle. Their feet, wrists, and even their necks were subjected to these restraints, a cruel violation that transcended all boundaries of humanity. Later, through tearful recollection, Nancy's sister Joanne emotionally expressed that she would forever carry the heart-wrenching memory of the sheer terror etched onto little Joey's face. Indeed, it is impossible to fully grasp the fear that must have been experienced by this innocent child, forced, alongside her mother, to endure such unspeakable horrors in the final moments of their lives. When Nancy was found, her wrist bindings, cheap handcuffs from a novelty store, had been broken, and they dangled from her wrists. Could she have fought back so fiercely against the assailant that she managed to break the handcuffs? The Boca Raton Police Service's website matter-of-factly reports, there is no direct evidence to suggest who broke the bonds or whether Nancy resisted the suspects in any way. Despite this statement from the police, Nancy's sister Joanne would later reflect that Nancy, the tough girl from the Bronx, clearly fought back against the abductor in a desperate bid to shield her daughter from harm. She was a fighter, Joanne asserted, reflecting on Nancy's fierce determination to protect Joey. A longtime friend, David Stewart, agreed, stating, "I guarantee you she told those guys she'd kill them," emphasizing Nancy's resolute commitment to protecting Joey from the perpetrator. Upon arriving at the crime scene, the Boca Raton Police Department promptly launched into action, meticulously gathering evidence and reconstructing a detailed timeline of the tragic events. Crime scene technicians painstakingly collected a myriad of evidence, including crucial DNA samples. Within hours, investigators had pieced together a plausible sequence of events. Nancy and Joey were abducted as they made their way back towards their black SUV in the sprawling parking lot. Subsequently, Nancy was coerced into driving to a nearby Bank of America ATM, where she was forced to withdraw $500, an unsettling illustration of the perpetrator's control over the situation and perhaps a clue to the motive. But if robbery were the genuine motive, wasn't the use of multiple restraints and sensory deprivation items excessive? Amidst the unfolding horror, there are indications that Nancy attempted to summon aid. Notably, an attempted 911 call from her cell phone reached the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at 3:14 p.m., just minutes after video surveillance recorded her leaving the mall. Tragically, the call was disconnected before it could be answered. When dispatchers attempted to call the number back, there was no answer. One can only imagine the dread and fear that must have gripped Nancy at that moment. Had the perpetrator discovered her dialing the emergency number? The terror she must have felt in that situation is truly incomprehensible. Law enforcement initially withheld many of the details from the public, including the ATM withdrawal, the goggles, and the causes of death. Still today, the available information regarding the sequence of events remains exceedingly sparse. Presently, the Boca Raton Police Service's website maintains that the exact location of Nancy and Joey's murders remain a mystery. Whether it occurred within the mall parking lot itself or elsewhere has yet to be determined. Moreover, police records acknowledge the ambiguity surrounding the timing of their deaths, as well as the time at which the vehicle was brought back to the town center mall parking lot. The investigation carried on throughout the night as police were dedicated to unearthing the truth behind the devastating events. As dawn broke, news outlets cautiously began to share fragments of information. For Joanne, Nancy's sister, that Thursday morning unfolded with eerie uncertainty as she awoke around 5:15 a.m. She had been unable to reach Nancy the evening prior, an uncommon occurrence. During an early morning news update, a local station briefly mentioned the discovery of two women found deceased within a vehicle at the mall. The media made no mention of a possible homicide, nor had they yet identified one of these unfortunate individuals as a mere child. As the morning hours ticked by, Joanne's anxiety heightened as she noticed the conspicuous absence of the daily phone call from her sister. It was customary for Nancy to ring her before embarking on her workday at the financial firm in Delray Beach. By 8:30 a.m., the silence persisted, and Joanne's growing concern prompted her to dial Nancy's workplace, only to learn that Nancy had not yet arrived. This deviation from her punctual routine struck Joanne as profoundly unsettling. Instinctively aware of Nancy's responsible nature, Joanne grappled with an unease that something was awry. Amid this growing disquiet, around 10 a.m., news coverage on the television transitioned to a somber scene. A black, late-model Chrysler Aspen SUV, cordoned off with crime scene tape, parked in a loading area at the mall. A pivotal moment arrived when Joanne's eyes settled upon the very vehicle featured in the footage. An instant realization overcame her, a profound understanding that the vehicle belonged to none other than her sister Nancy. In that heart-wrenching moment, her world shattered, and Joanne was left with the devastating certainty that her beloved sister and her cherished niece had been taken from her. In the grip of shock and despair, Joanne's screams of anguish echoed through the air. At the time, she was looking after her grandson, a responsibility she bore amid the unfolding tragedy. She remembers the urgency that seized her, hastily placing her grandson in the car and driving straight to the police station. Despite the grim anticipation that weighed on her, Joanne already knew the heart-wrenching truth the authorities would reveal. As details gradually emerged, it took 16 hours for local law enforcement to confirm the deaths as homicides. The weight of this heinous crime echoed throughout the community. Residents were shocked and grappling with newfound fear, undermining their recently regained sense of security. Lingering questions hung heavily in the air. Who could commit such an unthinkable act against an innocent mother and her young daughter? Could this crime be connected to Randi Gorenberg's murder only 9 months earlier? But perhaps the most pressing question on residents' minds: was there a predator stalking victims at the mall? In the serene enclave of Boca Raton, violent crimes like these had been almost non-existent. However, it had now witnessed 3 murders of innocent women and a child in just 9 months. As the community grappled with the reality of these disturbing acts, the law enforcement machinery operated continuously behind the scenes, amassing critical evidence and swiftly establishing a link between this tragic double homicide and another sinister crime. Remarkably, the community remained largely unaware of that incident, the abduction of a mother and child that had occurred at the same mall just 4 months earlier. Yet, unlike Nancy and Joey, that mother and child had managed to survive. That's next time on Perpetrator Unknown. As we delve deep into the perplexing town center mall cases, we are left with more questions than answers. The mysteries that surround these crimes continue to persist more than 16 years later. But the search for answers continues, and the quest for justice remains relentless. I'm LA. The tragic murders of Nancy and Joey Bochicchio have left a lasting impression on me. Back in 2007, like Nancy, I was a single mother raising a young daughter in South Florida. Our visits to the town center mall were filled with joy. It was a happy place. Yet, since that fateful day in December 2007, whenever I go to that mall or drive past it, thoughts of Nancy, Joey, and Randi inevitably cross my mind, lingering even after all these years. And that's why I'm here. I still have a voice, so I'm using it on behalf of these victims and their families. I urge you, if you have any information related to the Nancy and Joey Bochicchio case, contact the Boca Raton Police Department Detective Bureau at 561-338-1264. If you have information related to Randi Gorenberg's case, please contact Detective William Springer of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at 561-315-4188. Or, if you have information about either case but would like to remain anonymous, you may call Palm Beach County Crime Stoppers at 1-800-458-TIPS. That's 1-800-458-8477.
If you'd like to share your thoughts or insights about the podcast, please reach out. You can find our contact information in the show notes. We'd also like to encourage you to share the podcast, leave reviews, and engage with us on social media. Always remember that behind every unsolved case lies a victim and a family yearning for answers. Thank you for listening to Perpetrator Unknown.